Nairobi, not that, well dressed. I know there are a few phonies here and there who, like the other day I had one guy, he's preaching in the bus, and after he was through his preaching, he collected offering, and he looked at it, and it didn't look like it was what he was expecting, and so he sold his Bible. So there are phonies out there, that's it. But there are few who you can tell for sure that this is not a phony, that this is a real deal. You see a man with a nice shoe, dressed very well, and he's walking the street. He's just screaming his head off, and then, and after close to 2 o'clock, you see he's looking at his watch. He prays a prayer with no one, because it looks like, no one specifically. Then he runs off into some office, and tomorrow he comes again. And I wonder, God, I love you, and I know you. But I think for me, my love with you has boundaries on limits. Because I don't think, for me, it's a form of embarrassment. I can't imagine that the way I look myself at Kencom. Yesu anasema nawaambia ukweli bila Yesu. When I started sitting and listening, I realized that these people actually have an audience. There are people who are actually listening, who would actually ever go to a church. And the truth is, they will never stand before Christ and say, I never had. Because God had a man everywhere. And the truth is, friends, God has a strategy. God has a plan for eternity for all of us. He wants to reach all of us. And the other day I was listening to an argument, actually a few years ago, I was listening to an argument where a man was saying, what about those people in China and the other places of the world who never had the name Jesus Christ? Don't you think that it is naive for us as Christians to assume that Jesus is the only way to heaven? And he said this, in his opinion, what if those who never heard of God, God will judge them on the basis of the laws of the land that they themselves had constituted to govern themselves? Which would have meant, if you did not adhere to the laws of the land that you knew then in ignorance of Christ, if you are judged on the basis of that, then even if Christ came, you would still not have yielded. So the truth is, there is no vacuum. Because the laws of God are written in our hearts. And friends, we will stand before God. We will stand before Christ. And that thought scares me. Because there are parts of my life I would want to be blocked out from God. Because I know the way I lived or my thought like that. And I can't even bring myself to the imagination that they would actually be unveiled. And if they were, then I would rather it would just be me and God. And so, as I go on, there are times when I wonder, God, what is this that a man like John the Baptist, why would a man, healthy, came from a nice home, Elizabeth, and her husband, they were well-to-do. They were not poor. So their son was also, Zachariah, he was also not, why would, I'm sure that they were not fascinated by the path that his son chose. But he went out there, ate locusts, and dressed in sacks, torn clothes, in the wilderness, saying, make ye the path, for a man greater than I is coming, who I am unworthy to tie the thongs of his shoes. What had this man seen? What had Stephen seen when he looked up into heaven? A man is being stoned, and the Bible says in Acts chapter 7, actually chapter 6, verse 58 or 59, that he died. He was stoned to death. Stephen was stoned to death. And the description of Stephen, we see it in the beginning of the chapter. where the Bible says that the disciples were looking for men full of faith and the Spirit. Credible men who would take care of the affairs of the Christians then, of the believers then. Because the widows were complaining of partiality in the distribution of food. And so, this man who's being stoned, he's a man full of faith and the Spirit. And he's a man, he's crazy, beyond reproach. And what would he be seeing that he did not choose to run away? He is being stoned. But because he saw the glory of heaven, I don't know what he saw, but I would wish to see it. Because sincerely speaking, I have never been to the other side of life. But there's only one, and documents support, history supports this, beyond the Bible, that Jesus was seen after he was crucified by many people. The accounts that say that, and that's why they disapprove that he actually died. But yet, the contradiction is, there's no way you'd have been brought down, and there's no way when he was pierced by his side, blood and water would have come out when you're still alive. So the truth is, he died. There's only one who went and came back and never died again. And he still tells the story. Yeah, we know people like Lazarus, but they never told the story of what they saw. John says it is forbidden for the mouth of man to utter. Friends, I will not stand here and assume that I'm not afraid of death. If I knew death was waiting for me at home, in that house that I live in today, I would never go into it again. Never again. I'd forfeit everything in that house and never go in. So the truth is, we are all afraid of death because we are afraid of the other side. But my solace and comfort, even in my fear, is that the one I follow,